Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I'm your host, C Money, and before we go on to our episode, I would like to dedicate this show and my next few shows to my grandma, who passed away, and her funeral was this past weekend. And I, send all the prayers out to my family and everybody. It's been a hard, touching week and weekend. She passed away on Father's Day of 2021. So, for me and my family, we've been going through a lot, but rest in peace, Grandma. You have been loved. And she was 100 years old, so blessed to her. She lived her life, so she's now where she don't have to hurt no more. Yes, and today's episode, I want to talk about a situation that has been um, impacted by a lot of people, down here in South Florida. It is, as you know, most people, as you know, that the Surfside Condo, which collapsed about a week or two ago from this episode, in Surfside, which is on the upper part of the beach area. On the Miami Beach area, the upper part is a small city, town, community, neighborhood, however you want to call it, called Surfside. And it was a condo that collapsed about a week or two ago. And when it first came out, it was only like two, three, four deaths. And recently, the toll went up to 32 deaths and 113 people still not missing. One half of the building had collapsed, and with that in mind, it sparked a lot of allegations. It sparked a lot of things. It sparked a lot of controversy or everything. One of it is how did the building collapse? At one point they were saying that the building maintenance man had something to do with it because they say hours before it collapsed, he was on the roof, and then it was other allegations that faulty. The building structure was faulty. That it was old and that stuff. It was a lot of play out on how it collapsed. Me, and in my theory, I have two theories. Number one is yes, it could have been that the building structure is old and that they wasn't keeping the upkeep on the building structure and it could have collapsed. Another thing that I have said, which I know is not possibly um, an outcome, but I also said that it could have been maybe some type of terrorist attack or some type of somebody who like probably put something in the building to blow the building up or something. But I said that is a iffy like 2-3% chance that it is, because they're still looking at the fact that the building is old and the building is outdated, structures and stuff. They did say that it was due for an inspection maybe next year or later this year, if I'm not mistaken. And so now they're looking at what is the probability of it. What my thing was, and just recently, this past weekend, we were supposed to get a storm called Tropical Storm Ellis, and Ellis did not hit us, thank God. And for that matter, they demolished the remaining parts of the building. Now, for me, I thought it was stupid and dumb because number one, when you said it last, you only it's only 32 people dead. You still have 113 people that has not been accounted for. Those 113 people can either be number one, still in the debris that's on the ground, or they could be stuck anywhere in the remaining part of the condo tower that was still up. I don't think, and maybe they did, but I'm thinking that nobody went up to each floor of the condo to look for people that was remaining. They felt like the the remaining tower, since the tropical storm was supposed to hit, was going to be a real threat because of the storm. And since it's already been halfway torn down, the rest of the thing, as the storm hit, it's gonna, fly, and debris is gonna be everywhere. Cause on the beach, a lot of the hotels and condos sit right next to each other, like feet and feet away. They're not like spaced out. They're like there's a hotel here, then there's a hotel like 500 feet away, then there's another hotel or condo. So they're like close to each other, like door to door. So it's basically like They felt like it was going to be a problem or a bad situation to keep the rest of it up. And then you blow it up. And then somebody, one of my coworkers telling me, which is true, you blew up all that the rest of um the condo, and it came down. Not only do you probably still have the remaining people that you haven't looked for down there under the debris, but you put more debris on the ground, so it's going to even be harder to find people. And I'm like, do they think and everything? Because now it's going to be harder to find the rest of the 113 people. By now, they probably the death toll has probably went up, because when it said it was 113 people and 32 died, it was just a couple of days ago, and now the toll of finding people might be important. I was saying, I was told that there was a guy who parents lived in the condo, and he kept getting a phone call from them, and the phone call wasn't saying nothing, it was blank. He thought it was like the ghost of them or something, but there were people that were saying no, it could be them reaching out to him because they're still alive. I believe there were people still alive after the condo collapsed. It's just the way that they was doing the search and rescue situation, they probably have died, because remember, you still have 113 people. You can survive without food and water for like a day or two, because there are people, that fast and stuff, but the way you fast, that you can eat certain things, and you can fast, for like, you can eat certain things. There are some people that can last a day or two without food. Me, I can last probably a day without food, but towards like the end, when the sun goes down and stuff, and I haven't really eaten nothing, I start feeling the effects. But there are people that can actually go a day or two without food, but then there are people that can't go a day or two without food. So you got people that probably survived a couple of days without eating or drinking. They just probably felt some type of way. But then again, with your search and rescue that was going down, you really didn't actually do a good search and rescue, to my extent, because and now they're hiring people to actually do the cleanup, the debris, because I did get a text on my phone. They was paying $30 an hour for 12-hour shifts, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but that would be something for construction people to do. I'm not in construction, so basically that's what they was doing, trying to get the population, and then it affected the war. It affected everybody across the country. The president came out a couple of days ago and paid his respects and everything. Big ups to Joe Biden for doing that, because that makes him know that he's concerned. But this is far from over. And now they're looking at it as if it is a problem throughout the country, and not that throughout the county for here. Because just last week, an apartment complex called Crestview Towers, and this is one of the things that I didn't like about the situation. Crestview Towers, which was in North Miami, Florida, um, they evacuated everybody out of the building because they felt the building was unsafe to live in. Now, I understand that, but the way they did it was wrong. They did it where you had 5 minutes to get out. Me and my coworker had a kind of a debate about it. Not really a debate, but my coworker said they should have gave them a week. I'm like, yeah, that would have been the most best offer. Excuse me, the best offer to them, to give them a week to get whatever they need and to get out. Because you got to have clothes, valuables, anything, and get out. Things that you would actually need to survive outside. Clothes, maybe some snacks, charger, cell phone, computer, whatever you can get out to live, because you're going to need, body wash, you're going to need toothpaste, you're going to need all that. But given in the allegation of the time that they gave them, I would have said either 24 to 48 hours. You gave them only 5 or 10 minutes to say, okay, go, and you got to get out. You didn't give them time to say, let me pack a couple of clothes up. They had people walking out in garbage bags with stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is where these people live, and then you just come knocking on the door. You got to get out with no saying, oh, you got 24 hours to get out. No warning, no nothing. You just knock on the door and say, you got 5 minutes to get out. And I felt like really that was wrong, And then what they did afterward really was even messed up. They housed them at the Tamiami Park. Tamiami Park is where they host the day kind of youth fair and exposition, which is what we call the fairgrounds, which was 20 plus miles away. Then what they told people was the reason why they housed them 20 plus miles away is because they wanted them to be in a safe shelter for when the storm came. All of this is hovering around this storm that didn't even come. All we got was just rain. We didn't even much get wind or nothing. It was just rain. And the day that they told us the storm was supposed to come, which was on a Tuesday, it was sunshine. No rain, no nothing. And I look at it as if you did all of this. These people needed to be close to where they stay at. You could find a shelter close in North Miami where you could say we can house these people. I know you couldn't do it at a school or anything because at the time school is in. You have summer school and stuff, and you have these summer programs and stuff. So I know you can't do it at most high schools, but I'm quite sure there was a shelter place or a place where you can house these people where they can go to. These people have barely nothing in their hands. They didn't have. They couldn't. They probably couldn't even much get their charger to their phone. They probably couldn't even much get an extra pair of clothes to wear. They probably only got the clothes on their back, wearing underwear for 2 and 3 days. The way they did it was like, why would you do this? Right? You should have gave these people at least 28 to 48 hours, let alone a week to get whatever they need and get out. Because number one, these people probably could have found a relative to say, hey, you can stay with me for a couple of days. Don't go to a shelter. Or they could have found somebody or a friend or somebody that they could have stayed with for a couple of days until they got this situation resolved. No, you just knocked on their door and say, hey, get out. Now these people don't have nobody that's just like if you come to my place and say, hey, you got to get out. I can't say that I have somebody I can go stay with or I can stay with for a couple of days. Granted, I do, but there are people that are here that don't have family members down here that probably don't have many friends that can't host, or probably have somebody that they can't stay with. You got people that have these small apartments and small studios where they can't have an extra person living there. And then you have these people that have friends that may stay with other people or may have roommates and they don't have enough space. So it's like, where can they go? And then you have people that maybe don't have family here that's here from another state or here from another country and they don't know nobody here. So you're telling them to get out, where they're gonna go, and then you're sending them miles and miles away from their home. So what if you give them the access to go back to their home to get things? How they gonna get back and forth and stuff? So my thing is, because they had transportation buses, busing all these people to the location because most places you have like at least 5 people in apartment buildings that don't have vehicles. So a percentage of the people who stay in most apartments don't have vehicles. So you got these people busing and to these places. So to get back and forth to get their stuff, they 20 something miles away. So how they gonna get there? You got to catch 3 or 4 buses to get there. You got to pay maybe $34, $30 or $40 for Lyft or Uber because stuff like that. So I look at it as if the way they did it was wrong. And then you're centering this around the condo collapse. You have to realize, and then the building was built in the 70s from what they say. But you have to realize one thing. A lot of these buildings now have been built in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And a lot of these buildings, what they do, they patch up the walls and go about their day. They don't come check for faulty, what I'm saying, wall structures. They don't come looking for faulty structures or electrical problems and stuff like that. They go and they just, oh, there's a hole in the wall, patch it up, get on. Oh, there's a crack in the wall, patch it up, get on. And I've seen that in a lot of these rental companies to the point that they just patch up problems and then think it's okay. When you see cracks outside of a home or an apartment building, you know, they look at that as a problem. And yeah, it's probably been there for years, for the cracks and stuff been there for years, and it's like probably may not be a threat to anybody that lives in the building, but the government and the city officials and inspectors and all that don't look at it as if it's not a threat. They look at it as if it is a threat. So you gotta look at it as if, how are you gonna get these people to live when you don't have like a lot, like my coworkers were saying about the Southside Condo, talking about, oh, nobody can sue. I say yes, it's going to be a lot of people that's going to be suing because now you got these people that have family members that died in this tragedy, and now you know yes, there are going to be people that's going to sue, because there's going to be people that's going to say, why the building haven't been maintenance structured every year? Why, you know what I'm saying, there hasn't been an inspector to come out? You know, they're going to be different, um, there are going to be different questions towards this, building collapse. And I'm looking at it as if, these people are going to sit up here and say, my mom and dad lived in that building. They just recently said that a 7-year-old girl who celebrated her a 7-year-old girl who celebrated her 7th birthday, she died in that thing. And it was a tragic because they made it seem like she's only 7 years old. And I look at it as if, yes, a lot of people, adults and kids, have died within this week. And then this is shaking up a lot of people, because now they're going to go around and they're going to start checking a lot of these old buildings that's been built within the 80s and the 90s and the 70s. And they're going to be looking at these buildings as if, are they deemed safe? And I'm saying now, to my thing, if you're going to go do that, give people enough time to get what they need and get out. If you're going to say, hey, you need this building is undeemed fit to be living in, you need to say, okay, we're going to give you 28 to 48 hours, or we're going to give you a week to get your things and find another place to live. And if you don't have nowhere else to live, we will provide a place for you to stay temporarily until we get this resolved. And then now I'm wondering, do they still have to pay their rent because they're living there? A lot of these things, effective. Hey, you kicked us out because this place is unfit. I shouldn't have to pay rent for a month, or I should get half off of my rent because I'm living here rent free, and I'm living here, and I'm spending 2 weeks in a shelter because y'all feel this place is unfit. At least can I get half of off my rent? Because a month is 4 weeks, and sometimes 5 weeks, but a month is mainly 4 weeks. So basically, you staying here for half of a month in a shelter, are you going to be able to take money off my rent? I'm not going to pay $1,000 or $600 or $700, depending on how much you pay. And I stayed 2 weeks in a shelter, and I haven't had access to my home. You should be able to give me rent off. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying to y'all. What do y'all think about what's been going on with this situation? Do you think that the people? My question is to y'all: do you think that the people who have family members of the condos associate of that condo that collapsed, do you think the family members should sue the condo association, or the rental company that house that owns the condo property? Do you think that the people who got forced out of their house should be able to sue the condo company or the apartment company or the management company that manages the apartment? Or you think they should be able to get money off of their rent because they got kicked out of their place? Or do you think they should file a complaint? My thing is, all the above, yes. The people who, like, say for instance, if your mother or father was living in that condo in Surfside, you should be able to sue the company or to find out information on why that the building collapsed, and you should get a further investigation. And if you live within that apartment building that everybody got evacuated out of because of poor structure, you should be able to say, hey, we should be able to get credit on our rent for this month because we was told to be evacuated without notice, and we didn't have much to take. We only could take what we could in a bag or whatever and had to get out. Or they should be able to say, hey, if we don't get, credit on our rent or something, we need to file a complaint with the rental company, or we need to get something to say that, hey, we was getting forced out of our houses and without notice and stuff like that. We need to be compensated, or we need to go to court for something, because this is just ridiculous. Now it's gonna be where it ain't just gonna affect them, because Joe Biden and the mayor and was saying this. It doesn't affect just people in that building. Everybody is affected by this, because there is somebody like, I may know somebody that may know somebody that may know somebody that either lived in that apartment tower, or that may have lived in that Surfside condo that had collapsed. I may not know nobody personally that lived in there, but I may know somebody that knows somebody. So they were saying that this just don't affect the people. This just affect everybody, because everybody's affected by this condo collapse, because we may know somebody that knows somebody, or that may know somebody that may know somebody that may know somebody that lives in that condo. We may know somebody that have a cousin or uncle or somebody that lived in there, or we may know somebody that have a friend that stays in there. So everybody's affected. So now it's going to come to the point where they're going to go And now they're going to inspect a whole lot of buildings, and they're going to start inspecting these old buildings that's been built in the 70s and the 80s and some in the 90s. They're going to feel like, oh, it's not unfit and everything. So they're going to start deeming people to get out, and then it's going to shake up the whole world, because after this condo collapses, now a lot of people that are speculating on what do we go on with these buildings, and then now it's going to be more tightened rules about inspections, because now a lot of the inspections people, they're going to go to these apartment buildings, go to these condos, go to these high rises, and they're going to say, hey, this is not good. You have 48 hours or you have a week to get this problem solved, or we're kicking everybody out. And then if you don't resolve the problem, you're going to have a lawsuit, because these people that get kicked out, they're going to be calling and saying, hey, what's going on? Are you going to house us in a hotel or something? Are you going to compensate us for our rent this month? And this and that. There's going to be people that's going to be asking questions. Because my thing is, if you're kicking everybody out of these apartments because of the poor living, of the poor structure of the apartment building, the apartment company or the people that manage the apartments should be able to house these people temporarily in hotels. Even though it's not them that kicked them out, it's the inspection people and stuff that kicked them out. The apartment complex people knew that these structures was bad and poor, and that the beams and everything was poorly structured, and that the walls and stuff was unsafe to live in. So they should have been able to compensate people, say, hey, look, we're gonna compensate y'all for y'all rent, or hey, look, we're gonna put y'all up in cheap and expensive motel for a couple of days until we get this situated. No, they just kicked everybody out, and then the people, they probably calling the condos association or the apartment management and saying, hey, what's going on? Why this happening? Because a lot of these people are looking at things like, how are we going to survive? What's going to happen? When will we be able to move back in? Because now they're probably telling the people, you got to go and fix these walls. You got to go and fix these cracks. You got to go and fix these structures, and before you can let anybody back in. These people still got jewelry and TVs and computers and desktops. They got all this stuff in their apartments. They got food in their refrigerator. They got clothes in there. You telling somebody to knock on their door, they naked, getting out of the shower. You knocking on their door, you got to get out. They can only throw on what they can throw on, and then you telling them to go. They can't hustle up a couple of clothes. Hustle up some shirts, some pants, some underwear, some socks, some shoes. You just telling them to get out with just the clothes on their back. And I'm like, how can you do that? And then and then the people asking questions why. There's like no comment. They not giving them answers on why they getting kicked out and stuff. So I'm looking at it as if this to me was done poorly. It should have been where they should have gave people, like I said, my coworker thought it should be a week, which is true. But given in the time that y'all was doing, you should have gave them at least 24 to 48 hours to say, hey, by this time tomorrow, we need everybody to vacate the premises. If you haven't vacated get what you need, get the kit, and by tomorrow we need everybody to be vacated. You can vacate within the next hour. You can vacate within the next couple of hours. But by, let's say, noon tomorrow, everybody need to vacate the premises. Or by the time you get ready to go to work, you know what I'm saying, or get up to go to work, you won't be able to come back into your building. Some of these people probably was at work and then came home from work and probably wasn't let into the building. You never know. They probably came home from work and the people say you can't go in because it's poor structure. You just got out for work with your work clothes on. So now you got to go and sit in the shelter with work clothes on. Or are they allowing these people to go in to get a few things to come or something? Or they just saying you can't go in? That's the thing that I'm saying. A lot of these things that you're not looking at it as if these people lives are in these places. These people, this is what people call home. And then you're not giving them the option to say, okay, we're giving you a couple of hours to get what you need to get and get out. We're giving you 24 to 48 hours, or we're giving you a week to get your stuff or find a place to go and get out. You just tell them, get out. You bust them, you take them down south, and then you just leave them like with no clue, no question, no nothing. Yeah, these places may be cracking down, or they may be, the building structure may not be good, but then you got to look at it as if you got to give these people time to get out. You just can't rush them out. And then now you're leaving these people homeless, basically. And then what if they still got to pay rent on their property, of their on their apartment or condo, you know? And that's why I say, like, this is shaking up a lot of people. I want to know what do y'all think about it and how y'all feel about it. Because for me, I feel like this is something that's been heavy on my mind, and I've been thinking, with the condo associate, with the condo that collapsed in Surfside. Now it's not just affecting people. You got buses that go in there that have to be rerouted because and now they gotta hire people to get the debris. It's gonna take them months for this to for all of this to get done. And I'm looking at it as if y'all not looking at the big picture. You know what wall went down. What is you still got people that's missing in the debris. And then when you demolish the building, the other side of the building because of things, I'm looking at it as if did they go upside? Did they go up on the building, the remainder of the building? Did they go up to see if anybody else was in the main part of the building? Did they go up each floor to see if anybody was in the building? Did they go up to, the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 10th floor, or were they just on the ground floor looking for people under the debris? You need a search and rescue team for the debris on the ground and for the high rise that wasn't collapsed, the remaining part of the condo. Now, if anybody was in the remaining part that was up there, and they were still up there, regardless if they was dead or alive, you killed them and you blew them up because you demolished the rest of the thing because of the storm. And now and then you kicked everybody out of the other apartment, and then you put them down south because the storm coming. You made everything around the storm because you thought the storm was gonna hit. Yeah, the debris would have been a problem, and the condo would have been a problem because of the storm, because it would have blew all over, and with the winds it would have just knocked the rest of the condo down, and it could have blew all over and hit other condos and hotels and stuff, and it could have been a threat. Yes, I agree, but then again, you have to look at it. Why didn't you finish the search first before you tore it down? Because you still had 113 people missing. Those 113 people could still be in the debris on the ground, or they could have been in the part of the condo that was still up. You have not tried to find those 113 people. Level that, whatever else, now it could be less, it could be more, depending. But you knocked down the whole side of the building and you still have people lost. Those people could be under the debris that's on the ground, and then you put more debris on top of it, and those people could have been in the high rise, the part of the condo that was still up, and then you blew them to pieces. Regardless if anything, if you find a head, a foot, a toe, a leg, you got technology now that can identify a piece of finger to somebody, and say, hey, this is Charles Johnson, or hey, this is, another person, this is a female, this is a male, this is something where, you can identify somebody with just a finger and say, hey, we found another human being. But you can't do that now because a lot of the debris, you demolished the whole building to the point where now it's going to even be harder to find the remains of the people. It may be less, it may be, more, it may be less, because when I last seen it, it was 32 dead, and then it was 113 still lost. And now that you blew up the building, it's going to even be more. So it's even going to be a headache to try to get people. And now they're hiring people, to try to help clean up with the debris. And I'm like, yes, that's for people in construction that's willing to do 12-hour shifts and make $30 an hour, or people who's out of a job that can do stuff like that. But you got to look at it as if that search and rescue team is not 100% the best. And I feel like it's not what it is. I want to know, what do y'all think about this? Do you think that how they did the situation and how the situation plays out? I wonder, do y'all think that it was, y'all like the way that they did how they did the condo situation, how they did the search and rescue, do you think it was a good idea to blow up the rest of the condo down? What do you think about the Crestview Towers apartment? Do you think it was okay for them to evacuate them? Would you think it was good the way they did it? Do you think it was bad because of the way they did it? I want to know your comments. I want to know your concerns. Email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. Apparently, I will be doing a follow-up on this topic, because this is not over yet. This topic, this is still an ongoing situation. Because they're still doing everything. They just blew up the condo this past weekend, and there's still, it's still more going down. So I just wanted to know how you feel about it. Email me roundtable00@yahoo.com. Comment at the bottom of this page. This is C Money. I thank y'all for watching this episode of the Roundtable Talk. Rest in peace, Grandma. I love you. I miss you. You are in heaven. And for those who don't know, this is the picture of my grandma. If you can see her, rest in peace, Grandma. I love you. I miss you. And you are blessed in heaven. And I'm C Money, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Roundtable Talk.